to the cloud. Okay, we are now recording. Thank you, Dwayne.
Okay. Have a good
Okay.
meeting.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. If you got the newsletter, I don't think we need to do a formal introduction for our program speaker today. Ann Anderson is a delightful person besides an entertaining author. If you're on Facebook, be sure to look her up and friend her because she has the most awesome posts. And it's my understanding that her Facebook post became the basis for her book that she published. So you can publish a book from Facebook posts, which I'm getting ready to do soon. And they're going to be poems and photographs. So
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here today. I was with District 2 on Zoom this morning and left them early. So I'm trying to do as many district AAC meetings in one day. No, not really. Anyway, as Ann said, I'm Ann Anderson and I wrote Posts of a Mid-Century Kid. And I've had great success with it. I had it published last October, launch in Lawrence, where I live. And ever since then, I've been pushing the rope and herding cats with it. And part of why Ann, I think, invited me today, I've been speaking quite a bit, not only about my book, but more about how I marketed it, basically with not very much money, but a lot of enthusiasm. Just a little background. I grew up in Topeka. This was where I got my first library card, which is related in my book. So it's a very meaningful place to me. Obviously, it's grown from a size about this size to what it is today, which is an amazing library. I went to KU and I worked for the American Governor's Office and I worked for the American Cancer Society for 20 years and ran a chamber, did a comic strip and all those things that lead you to where you're going. How this came about was we moved to South Carolina to retire 2015. I'm not a Southern girl. I found out in about a month. And every day I see a new bug or snake. South Carolina, factoid, is where they make most of the anti-venom for the country because that's where most poisonous snakes live. My husband, who grew up in Florida.
excuse me just a second, Ann. Can you all hear Ann on those of you who are on Zoom? Can you hear her?
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure. Okay. Let me know if you can. So South Carolina did not agree with me to the point that I really was unhappy. And my good husband, we moved back. And the cats weren't happy either. So in the process of this wall that one goes through, I started writing just memories, things about little knickknacks I had, memories of my grandma's snowflake pin. I bought her one year. And one day in the mail, I got a little flash drive from my best friend in LA. And she said, "These are great. Here's 50 of my favorite posts. I hope you'll write a book." So that's nice. About 2 weeks later, my KU roommate, who's in Wisconsin, sent me a manuscript or paper and said, "These are some of my favorite posts. You should put them in a book." Wow. Okay, maybe I should start thinking about this. So it was joyful. The nice part about this was I'd written all my life. I've had short stories published and I did a comic strip and I teach tennis at Jayhawk Tennis Center. So I've had tennis articles published, but it really felt like, yes, I could put these together for a book. Maybe some of you remember your first book. I thought weight was better than content. So I had 150,000 words and I was so excited. I sent it to, just undaunted, I sent it to University Press of Kansas because to me, they're kind of the epitome of getting published. And first I sent 5,000 words and they said, "We'll send the rest." So I sent the rest. And about a month later, this wonderful editor, Laura, wrote me back an email and said, "This is too long.
It's not something we would publish, but I enjoyed it and it's marketable. So I got up and I ran around the house and, yeah, and my husband's like, what are they gonna do? And I go, no, I got rejected. I'm like, "What?" Rejected by the University of Kansas. I'm gonna print it off. I printed it off, printed it up, and I started calling it unselected. But what I took away from that, and everybody that did not select me, five people before I got published, I learned something from them. They gave me a sentence or a direction. I sent it to, she actually recommended metal art. So I sent it to Tracy. And this was just going into a pandemic. Great. And Tracy wrote me a really lovely email back and said, we're not going to be publishing probably in 2020. This needs more editing. And sent me 2 editors. And she said, these are editors I use. And so I interviewed both of them, which I know you all probably are published, but if you aren't, and that's a critical thing, is make sure your editor matches up to your chemistry. And I think that's so important. So I picked Hazel Hart. Hazel is amazing. She's in Emporia, and she actually won KAC award for her fictional, I don't know how she does it, or historic fiction novels. So we worked about a year on that, and she said, okay, I need it 90,000. I'm like, what? So actually it was not that hard to get down to 90,000, and we got nice pictures of the 50s. This picture I really like is, I always knew this would be the cover of some book. And this was a black and white on Burnett Road, Kansas, me holding my 2 Siamese kittens and the oil stain, because everybody changed their oil on the driveway back then. And I went to Wolf's and I talked to Mike Wolf. And I said, can you colorize this? And he goes, well, yeah, of course. And he said, what color are your pants? Pink. And he goes, oh, 56 Buick. And so he looks up the color of this particular Buick and just nailed it. And when the little picture came back, I was just stunned by the reality of seeing this picture like that day was just yesterday. So that became my picture for the book. And ever since then, since the launch, I've worked really hard, almost a part-time job of promoting my book. Like I saw Kansas Library Association was having their statewide conference in Wichita. And so I wrote them and said, you know, I'd like to be a presenter. And about 2 weeks later, they said, well, send us this is a form. And then 2 weeks later, they said, yes, you can be a presenter. I was just like, oh my gosh. So, I mean, one of my marketing tips is don't be hesitant to just contact people. Somebody asked me the other day, an author saying, he was like, how do you do that? And you go, well, you call people and you type, you just ask them, and you know, you might get 1 yes out of 10, but you have to learn to thrive on rejection. So, you know, it's not personal, it's just what they're not looking for at that time. One of the quotes I really like is, we look at the world once in childhood and the rest is memory. And what I found during this process is so many people are interested in memoirs in general. That's becoming a very popular thing to do. And also just capturing a time. Yes, there were huge problems in the 50s, but our memory kind of softens that through going to grandma's and eating cinnamon rolls. And much of what I tried to put in this was that kinder part of it. You know, I did relate my bio dad leaving us and my stepdad having an affair and those things, but I don't focus on those. As far as marketing tips, I
gave you this little one. I'm sure most of you have done it. But one thing I felt is so important is who is your audience? And if you have not identified that, really sit down with somebody that knows your writing and target that. My writing, I can see people coming a mile off, that's my reader. They're 67 to 80 years old. They probably grew up in the Midwest. They might have had a grandparent on a farm. So that's the group that I really target quite a bit. There are people that have parents that like to buy my book and grandparents they give it to. I would not go to a tech conference and try to promote my book because they'd be like, what? So find your audience and stick with it. One thing that many years ago, I went to the Kansas Book Festival and it was at the Capitol building. And David Price, who's a professor at Washburn, said, what's your elevator pitch? And I know that's old school, but that really resonated with me. And if you don't have an elevator pitch, you need a 30-second one and you need a 3-minute one. And you've got to be able to reel that off. If somebody asks you, what's your book about? Or tell me about yourself. If you have that and you've kind of memorized it, you can get on TV, you can do radio, you'll be much more comfortable. So I highly recommend that you do that. Anne mentioned that these are Facebook posts. It started out on my Facebook. When I joined Facebook in 2008, I made myself a rule, which wasn't hard, not to comment on politics or break up with people and all those things that you see daily on Facebook that makes social media so disturbing. And I chose to put out more positive thoughts and information. Since doing that, I found Friends of the Flint Hills, which has about 40,000 members, and they primarily target, it has to be about the Flint Hills. Well, all my relatives lived in the Flint Hills, some still do. So I've written a lot of posts on that, and honestly, probably, I say half of my book sales have come from, you can't actively promote, but somebody will say, I love this, you should write a book. And I'll go, well, as it turns out, so I put it in the comments, I don't put it ever in the content. The other group I joined was Topeka History Geeks, and I think they have 25, 30,000 people, fun group. And it has to be about Topeka. So I just started writing some Topeka memories. And there you catch a whole spectrum of ages that love to hear about Topeka back in the day. I wrote about urban renewal, if any of you remember when that happened and the bottoms got disseminated and big impact in Topeka. But again, I tell it in a story form that people can enjoy. This little map is in the front of my book. Somebody said, oh, it's so good you did a map when you were a kid. Well, thanks. When I did this, my editor and publisher said, I like the look of this. So they left it as is. These are just places like at KU, Joe's Donut. I didn't spend much time in the KU library. I went to Joe's Donuts. The Topeka Library is here. This is not to scale by any means, but it's a fun thing if you're writing a memoir or some book that has locations to give people a sense of where these places are in relationship to you. Another point I would highly suggest is when I started this, I did not know how to do Zoom. I didn't know how to do Square. These are things, either you get friends to come with you that will do that, or you have to sit down and most likely learn how to do Square. So if you're selling your books at an event, you're able to take credit cards. Not everybody has cash. One of the things I did, especially right after I wrote my book, when it came out, is I spoke to a lot of senior active living places, Meadowlark in Manhattan. If you haven't gone there, it's amazing. It's like a cruise ship. It's just beautiful. And I'm forgetting her name, Nancy Julian Kopp, thank you, that lives there, invited me. And she writes, she's a wonderful writer. She writes every day on Facebook. And I think she's had 200 stories in Chicken Soup. So very, very prolific. That was a great place. Again, that's my audience. They were all there, very interested in it. And we had a really good time. I've spoken at farmers markets, first Fridays, second Fridays, third Fridays, first Thursdays, Rotary. There's just so many places out there, but you have to always be researching and reaching out to people. My background is marketing somewhat, and I found out really early on with this, the day after your launch, you wake up and everybody's gone. Like, oh, where's the party? It's over. The cupcakes are gone. That's the day that you got to get something planned and plan for the next day. And I probably do 4 events a month if I can. And that just helps. That helps me as an author keep myself out there and keep on track. I'm speaking to the Shawnee County Historical Society at the end of January, and that's going to be really great group because a lot of this is history of Topeka. Another thing that I recommend is some type of branding. People said, "Oh, are you going to wear a poodle skirt because it's the 50s?" I'm like, no, I was a little kid then. So sometimes I wear my saddle shoes. I got my grandma's pin. It's just a little nod to that time. When I spoke to the Kansas librarians, I made them all old-timey library checkout cards, and they were like, "Oh, these are so cute." And then I put my business card, which is in there. So think about something, if you have a regular business card, that's great, but if you can think of something that pertains to you and your writing, I really suggest that you kind of make a little more interesting business card than what we normally hand out. I guess the last thing I would want to tell is I'm working right now. One of the fun things, and I know you all know this from being an author, is I put a story on one day about the bottle cap that my grandpa rescued out of a blizzard when I was 7. And my grandma took it into the kitchen, and the next morning when I got up, the cap was still in the kitchen, and she named it Bottle Cap. Well, any of you that were on farms know that you're not supposed to name farm animals because things happen. But Bottle Cap got to grow up and be a 19-year-old old cow on grandma's farm. So hundreds and hundreds, I think like 800 people in one day said, "Oh, Bottle Cap, I love Bottle Cap." One of the people that wrote was Sarah Long, an artist in Liberty. And she said, "Oh, I love this story. I have a painting of a bottle cap." And she put it up. I'm like, "That's great. We should do a book together." She wrote back, "I'm in 100%. So when somebody does that, I think you have to kind of pay attention. So we set up a meeting in Kansas City. This is her she's doing Christmas cards with this, and it's got, I'll just pass that around real quick. It's got Bottle Cap. That's the first painting in the book. And it's got my story of that Christmas night that the cap was saved. So it's so fun to get to network with interesting people. Like Barbara said, for me to get to sit with Barbara at that conference was just such a treat. So it's so fun to get to meet other people. I'll quit talking and see if any of you have any questions. Yes.
Those 2 people that sent you the posts that they liked,
Yes.
did they overlap at all?
Oh, yes.
They did.
Yeah.
And you used all of those then?
Well, I'd say 90% of them. Yeah, I mean, I had to be, one thing I recommend if you don't, we all would like a writer's cabin. I didn't have one to go cut my words, but my cousins grew up on the farm out by Ballin. And now it's the Mill Creek Lodge at Ballin Point, and you can stay there. Beautiful. So I went out there for a weekend and nobody was there. So it was pretty easy to sit there and go, nope, 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 that's not good. So, if it's okay, I'm gonna read the post and then. wrap it up. So this is one that they both agree on. Alleys and roly-poly bugs. Do you guys know what roly-poly bugs are? Okay. I drove down the alley by my old house at 720 Parkview. I would guess most people don't know or think about alleys anymore, but as a kid, it was like having a playground at the edge of our backyard. Across the street, out our front door, was Hughes Tennis Court, which were bustling with activity. When we stepped out our back door, the alley beckoned with a quiet place to explore, to find lost coins and keys, and to see our neighbors' lives through the back of their houses. A line of swing sets, playhouses, and trees for climbing all magically appeared to us just by crossing the alley. Cat pictures. Spoiler alert. There were many kid meetings in the alleys to plan our day, decide where our bikes would take us, find roly-poly bugs, and maybe just rummage in our garages and look for buried treasure. During the daytime, our alley became a dirt freeway of kid fun and a grand place to sit on the ground and play with our various cars and trucks. We had a stone wall that ran along our alley in the backyard. Mom told my brother and me that roly-poly bugs were made into butter brickle ice cream. Our favorite. He said the little bugs were toasted and tossed into vanilla ice cream. Sometimes he would tell us that if we went out by the stone wall into the alley and caught a milk bottle full of roly-polies, she would take them to the store and bring back the butter brickle ice cream. Joy, my brother and I would go about the 3-hour task of filling up a milk bottle with the bugs and presenting it to my mom. She would take it, drive around for an hour, and then return with the promised ice cream. I was probably 10 before I figured out she had just found a way to keep us busy for the afternoon. Next time I'm out driving, I think I'll go down my old alley again and see what changes time has brought since the 50s. And I might stop and get some roly-poly ice cream. My mom died when I was 28 and she was 64, and that was a big impact to my life. And then my brother died 8 years ago, my only sibling. So a lot of what I've captured, and I encourage you to do this, if nothing else, for your own family, like you're doing with your baseball book, is, we're one generation away from losing stories. And if somebody doesn't write those down and pass them on, write somewhere in pencil on the back of a book, picture, who's in this picture? Where are you? That's so meaningful. So, my brother was an alcoholic. He was a good person, but really consumed by all those demons. And I chose to remember him as kid memories when we were all happy, mainly for me, but also because my nieces and nephew lost their dad very early. And I wanted them to go forward with memories they could enjoy of their dad. So that's one thing to think about when you write is, are you going to get a lawsuit from anybody? But I just wanted to portray the more happier side of growing up in Topeka and Kansas and all the things that have taken me on this journey to sitting here today. Any last questions? I know you've got business meeting.
How do you remember so much detail? Yeah, I am just maybe a year or 2 or 3 older than you, so I was in the same area. In fact, my grandparents lived on Burnett Road, and they had a Buick. Going down memory lane.
Wow.
But how do you remember so much detail? I just think that I am amazed when I read you.
Thank you. I think it's kind of known that what you emote to and tie an emotion to an event or a person, you remember. And I guess that time for me as a kid was very impactful. My bio dad left, and there was the transition to my stepfather who had an affair. So there were all these little segments, and maybe I just compartmentalized them better because I remember them all. And I guess I just have a good memory of that time.
But didn't you find that once thinking about them and mulling it over, more memories came forth
Yes.
in more detail?
Yes, for sure. Yeah, I also I put pictures in the book, black and white mainly. And if you do that, this is a picture of my mom and my brother and I by the fireplace mid-century. And I can look at that and I just remember that day of having on my brownie socks and my moccasins. And I guess when I look at a picture, I just translate all that into what was happening that day for the most part. So I'm just lucky remembering all that. I don't remember any algebra, but I'm still on day 10,000 and I haven't had any algebra yet. So I think the other thing is in third grade, I had a third grade teacher that was so special, Mrs. Beatty. And if you stayed in at recess, she would help you write stories. And then my ninth grade teacher, if you stayed after school, she taught creative writing. So there's so many teachers along the way. Probably most of you had somebody that made a significant impact on what you were going to do, maybe writing. So,
Well, I just love reading your posts because in
Thank
many ways I relived my childhood, a part of it anyway.
thank you, Margaret.
I think that's the charm of a book like Anne's, is that you relive your life through it, because so many of us have those kinds of experiences in common that it just really tugs at your heartstrings for sure.
How many of you had flashbacks you didn't even know you had? I mean, lately, it's happened to me. I get memories, I didn't know I had them. I think it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I didn't even try to, really, but it just pops in.
Somebody flips the switch.
And I think it's probably an age thing, or something's happening to my maturity or something. It's kind of spooky.
You don't have any high power lines going over your head.
Right. And I'm not, I don't have any autism, I'm not a savant or anything, far from it. But I just wonder if it's a phenomenon that occurs.
For me, I think they came when I was in an emotionally safe place,
Okay.
and I couldn't keep them before that. But then when I was emotionally safe and something triggered it, it was like a brick at me.
I'm
But
not,
that's phenomenal how the mind has the ability.
It's good if
You've
you
never
can-
practiced memorizing it, but then all of a sudden, it's in the sixties and it's there.
Yeah.
From when you're a kid.
And try writing those down when you get them, so you don't lose them again, because they may be valuable. They may be your muse telling you, you need to write about this.
It's older, if it's good if you have an older sister or a cousin or a neighbor that you're really close to talk some of those things over with, and it's amazing what they remember that adds to your story sometimes.
Yeah.
I think that's such a good point. When I was writing this, my cousin is in this a lot, and I asked her if it was okay. And she read a story and she said, "Well, why are you saying your grandma? That was my grandma too." And I said, "No, it wasn't." I was the youngest grandkid, so I just looked at her and she goes, "I was there 10 years before you." And I truly, that had never crossed my mind that
But it's written from your point of view. so
from
it's
my
your
point of view, these are my memories.
That's right.
And she was my older cousin and my grandparents were my grandparents. So, people that read this, they may correct you, but I say, hey, this is my memory. And do you want to write a memory book? You write a memory book.
but
So,
I was just thinking about Tom and his memories that pop up. I wonder, if there's a way of, seizing on that memory and trying to figure out what triggered it. You can figure out what triggered it, Well, then you could probably go to that trigger off and on and you might discover a
I'm
whole.
trying to reevaluate. But I really think of it, I think it has implications about how we view dementia and Alzheimer's, which is that, okay, I forget this for 55 years and it's still there. So I forgot it,
Somewhere.
but my mind is completely healthy, I believe.
Mhm.
And so then,
So never
yeah,
trigger.
so someone gets a disease. Well, okay, mine came back after 50 years. Who knows if somewhere in afterlife, it will come back. That's why I look at it. I think it's so phenomenal that it's gone for 55 years and then it's back. Okay, you have to be alive, but
You know, kind of along with what we were just saying, I'm the oldest one in my family left. And I have said to my siblings and my younger cousins, you know, guys, I'm not going to be around forever. I'm the only one who knows who some of these people are in these photographs. I'm the one who has a lot of the memories. We really need to get together and take care of this.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not thinking of popping off anytime
No,
soon.
but you're very wise in addressing that issue, because sometimes you just don't have anything to over.
And you're amazed sometimes what everybody can forget, because just this last week, I'm the oldest of four, and my dad was killed when I was 16. And I have one older relative who was involved. That's all the rest are gone. And so I asked my siblings and her, because I know where I was immediately after his death and after the funeral. I was in grandma's basement. And the rest of the world, I mean, I didn't know. And I don't know where my sister stayed. I sort of think I know where my brother stayed, but how long did we stay there? Because I remember the day mom went and picked us all up. I didn't want to go back home. I didn't want to go there. And I don't know it. And so I asked him, where did you stay? And do you remember when mom came and got us? Did you want to go back home? None of them could remember at all. My aunt couldn't even remember, but then daddy was her older brother. So it was traumatic. So it was this major group amnesia, which I thought somebody would remember something, but none of us. So I'm hoping, because I've opened the subject, that something might come. Because I'm assuming my mom was with her parents. Maybe my sister was there because she remembers the limo coming, picking her up and taking her to the funeral, and she didn't want to get in. She wanted to run into the woods, so it wouldn't happen. I didn't even know that. Now, I don't even remember a limo at all. It's going through the cemetery. So the bits and pieces, it's very strange. And of course, it was over 50 years ago now. But
That's an interesting term, Dwayne, group amnesia. That, yeah,
Maybe it was trauma for everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it was trauma. I was thinking like how hard it was for my grandparents and for the other adults, because they had these 4 kids to emotionally take care of. I fainted during the funeral. And they were prepared for that. And so I was thinking, I tried to put myself in their position, these little kids without daddy. So it was a very strange. Yeah, it's the same.
And I think that happens in, in researching this, I found out, which was common. My grandma had a younger sister, Valentine, that died when she was 20, way before I was born. This was never, ever discussed. And mom didn't tell me, and then I found out grandma had a baby that died and was buried on the farm. Back then, those were things were hidden in family. Not that that was your case, but the last thing I'll say, because I know you do have a meeting, is I really, when I talk to groups, especially with kid groups, and I teach 3 to 5 year olds, and I really try to get people to put away the devices and have conversations. It's just so lovely talking with everybody. I try to go to coffee with somebody twice a week, because you remember conversations when you're talking to people. You don't remember when you're deadheading with a screen so much. So, if you can get people to put down that phone or iPad just for a little bit, you'll be so much better off, especially kids. And before you go,
I have two questions. Um. How did you manage to land an author event at Barnes and Noble?
Stalking? No.
Says a lot.
Well, back to my point about be bold is last June, I went in there and asked for Lisa Espinosa, who sets up author events. She wasn't there. So the lady handed me a form. I filled it out, all excited about it. Time goes by. I went back over. Anytime I was in Topeka, I go in. Is Lisa here? No, she doesn't work today. Could you please give her my number? And I'd write it out. I'd give her these fun cards and leave, breadcrumbs. So I think it was August. I went back over there and she was there. And I had my elevator speech ready to go. And, my book is on Barnes and Noble online, and it's got a lot of nice reviews, which you guys can add to my reviews if you'd like. And she goes, yeah, that would be great. I've been thinking about doing that. So I said, how about November 12th? Because I wanted it kind of for holiday sales. And it was far enough out they could book it. And that's how I got it. Just really like Watermark Bookstore, which is really a nice one in Wichita. And that was a big event. I sold a lot of books there. I just went down there and had coffee and met the people. So just relationships and.
Now, Watermark, is that a Barnes and Noble?
No, Watermark is, store, but it's one of the nicest bookstores I've ever been in. It's got a
Did
cafe.
the stores order copies ahead of time, or did you have? to
Yes.
bring?
No,
They
they
do.
do. And you don't want to,
That's what I was, the question, yeah.
most places like Barnes and Noble, they won't even when they sold out, I knew the answer. I said, I do have some in my trunk. No, we
Right, they don't.
corporate. I said, okay. So it was like drug deals out in the parking lot. So I'm like,
I'm done with it.
but anyway, you gotta be prepared.
So did your publisher publish on Ingram Spark?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And Anne did a publisher panel at the Kansas Book Festival. And I wish I would have paid $500 to have heard that 4 years ago. And I can't say enough about, again, like an editor, find a publisher that you resonate with beyond getting it published, because there's so much that happens after you have the book in your hand that you don't know about. So
The other question I have is, and you may not want to share it, but how many copies have you sold? Have you? total that?
I don't have an exact count. I do know it's significant. On Amazon, you get marginal feedback from them, but if you look, they print out a report, or they have a report, and it starts like January, and then when I started doing Friends of the Flint Hill, and they just go up and up and up. Barnes and Noble, Lisa reported that those sales have been very strong. And the other thing you can look at is your number of reviews versus some of the other books where they might have none or one. That's something really to ask your readers, is to please go on Barnes and Noble and Amazon and Goodreads and anywhere you can to get reviews. So I don't know. I'll find out in December, and I'll let you know, because you'll either hear partying and champagne popping and but I will say I have more than made what my initial costs were with an editor and a publisher. And while that was not my real goal, that was definitely, I didn't want to put money hopefully on this.
Is there another book in the works?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
The Adventures of Bottle Cap coming in 2023. And it's about halfway done. I'm excited. And the third book I'm working on is not really a sequel to this, but more of a continuation. So many people have wanted just the prairie stories that I write about, the Flint Hills and more of the kind of farm years. So I'm working on that too. Anyway, there's always a story. A last story I'll leave you with. Again, I teach little kids and they're so adorable. And one of the little boys that's on scholarship, if your family doesn't have very much money, came in a couple weeks ago and he's like, Coach Ann, what is it? And he points like this. I look down and I go, you've got new shoes. He goes, they're my first pair of box shoes.
Oh, my goodness.
I like, oh, for a 4-year-old to so openly share that, all of his shoes, I know his mom goes to garage sale, they go garage sailing, he says it. Now, I was so touched, and I thought, the little things that make our life every day are what are fascinating to me, not big political events or those kind of things. It is a boy getting a pair of box shoes and sharing that, so.
And maybe he'll write a memoir about that someday too.
Again, you write all that stuff down to remember, and I, like most of you, carry a couple of notebooks around to write all that stuff down. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Zimmer.
There's Carol. I didn't know Carol was here.
The picture on your book is a 57 Buick.
Oh, sorry.
1957.
Yeah.
Picture talking to.
I hate the car now.
Thank you. Yeah, I've had a lot of people say, hey, you have this car? Well, I did. No, that was one of my. So,
And if you will send me your snail mail address, I will get you a check.
okay, sure. I'd be happy to. Thank you.
Hey, thanks a bunch.
Thank you. Well, thank you. I girls so much. And when I come over to Walkeroo one of these days, and
Oh, that would be great. There's no place to have coffee in Walkeroo.
That's where you are. It's your house.
I'm in Lawrence.
In my house, you know. We have not much room to work with, so we do not have to make a decision on this today, but I wanted you to be aware of it. The first program is going to be in January 2023, so if someone, I don't know that 500 a year to get really top-notch people is out of line. I mean, that's how to figure that a month. I don't
500
know.
times 12 is $6,000.
No,
And there are 7.
no.
Not 500 a month.
500 a year.
Well, but I'm thinking of the different.
But it's not all those districts are gonna be able, we have the money to do it in this district. But the ones out in western Kansas that are struggling, they're not gonna be able to contribute that, so. But I'm like you, Barbara, I don't feel $500 is too much. Now, if we only had $39.95 in our account, then I would think, well, maybe that might be a little much. Yeah. But we do, now I know we're gonna need some of it for our anthology, I know that. Yeah. But, and of course, we could try it for a year, this 500. If it doesn't work out. And if our treasury dips to where we don't want to afford that. Might have to go back and rethink that, but I would rather be exposed to, we've always had wonderful programming, but to be exposed to people, really top-notch people, I think would. I think she's talking about people with a national following, so. That, well, like this.
That would bring up a notch.
Young woman coming into the library on the third. Yeah, the new poet laureate. Poet laureate, yeah. That is exciting. I signed up. I did too. Not after me, I haven't signed up yet. So
I can see value to it. I also have great concern about what happened to the local district. if we take one of our primary,
Draws.
draws away, the minute we stop meeting in person like this, we're done.
Well, I'm not proposing that we stop meeting in person at all, at all.
Well, we could come here and watch it
That's,
together.
that's what the goal is to come here and watch the program together on Zoom.
And then do our own thing as well.
Or we don't have to. I mean, we can do something different, but yeah.
May I ask a question?
Fun.
Was that you, Carol?
Yes, may I ask a question?
Can you what?
Ask a question? I'm curious whether there would be a specific time for the speaker and then people would do their personal district meetings like you're doing right now with their own district without other people being a part of it, or
I think the goal is, good question. The goal is to record this and make it available for use anytime you want.
okay,
So.
you
so
don't
you
have to
can
do that
access the
live.
recording, or you can do it live, either way. So, for example, they have the first one scheduled for 1:30, I think, on the third Saturday in January. We could have our January meeting and watch that program here at the library, and then have our business meeting afterwards. For February, you know, if we wanted to go ahead with whatever we wanted to do, then we don't have to access it. So they're probably,
Paying for it.
yeah, yeah, that's true. The other thing that we have going on here is a lot of the districts have individual writing groups that meet separately from our district. For example, Emporia has a group of people that get together once a week and they do nothing but write. They gather in one place and they write. That is, you know, that's totally separate from the district activity. Even in Topeka, we have several different groups. And now that we have an open mic event once a month, you know, that is kind of that's an offshoot of Kansas Authors Club District 1. I think Amy Gross belongs to a group that meets here at the library that meets once a week every Tuesday, and they write and they share their writing. So they're trying to give every district and all these disparate writing groups and open mic groups kind of more of a central focus, a statewide focus that they can draw on as resources for their writing groups or their open mic groups or whatever.
Some of
So
the districts in the West, they have a really, really hard time with.
they have a
meeting.
horrible time.
I mean, I
yes.
used to live out in Hayes. I know it's just,
Yeah,
everything's 100 miles away if you're lucky.
that's right.
It's that close.
So, and we've always had the age-old issue of, okay, where are we gonna have the convention this year? You know, the time we tried to have it in Western Kansas, I think the pandemic hit then, and, you know, it just had to go on Zoom. So there are lots of complex things at work here. But as the executive board, we are trying to save the club, number one, and give members something for their dues. Give them something meaningful, something that's going to benefit them, something they need.
Maintaining relevance.
Yes, maintaining relevance, and that has been hard. And every single one of us has different needs and a different focus. So it's really hard to mesh all that together into a cohesive whole.
When did she want a decision?
It would be, the sooner the better, but if you don't feel comfortable making it, we can defer that until January.
We're
And,
not gonna meet in December?
pardon me,
We're not gonna meet in December? I don't know.
oh, we're meeting for the winter solstice party. We're gonna have a party
Well, I think that, out west, yes, they have trouble. They probably have smaller groups, all this sort of thing. And we're not a large group here, but we are at the moment in a position to perhaps help make this possible. And those folks would also benefit. I don't know, I see it as something very positive.
What's our balance?
Idea.
Our balance is 8,000 something.
Oh, okay, so.
Yeah, we're not really.
Yeah. The
That
other,
doesn't mean we don't have other things we want to
we
do.
have other things to do with it. and We're gonna talk about that briefly in a minute, but the other thing we're experiencing, and Carol, you can correct me if I'm wrong here. Those of you who have been part of this group for a long time. Years ago, when you had 35 people at one meeting, it was a social club. Wouldn't you say? We are now morphing into more of a professional organization. With.
Which is what Kansas Southern said started to be. When it was started, you had to earn your income by writing.
Really?
That was a qualification.
Wow, I did not know that. You told me something I didn't know.
And then it gradually over the decades got to where you had to have something published. And then it got to, you had to have something publishable. And I don't know if that's still. a
Well, there's a
qualification.
limit to people who are getting.
Right.
Right. Stipulation.
So, but that's where it started.
Yeah,
It's the
so it has
profession.
gone through, an evolution of this in the past 100 years or however long,
It's been over.
over 100 now, so. I forgot to mention that as one of the things, and the minute I joined, I was hearing that conversation. Well, this used to be a social club and we used to meet in the basement of such and such, and
Yeah,
we had a really good time and,
because we ate lunch.
yeah, ate lunch, yes,
But before that, we met in the penthouse at Brewster Place.
really,
And it was, the meetings were much bigger than this right now.
is that right?
So the changes have been all over.
I know, yeah.
But we've always changed.
Mhm.
And
And
changed.
that's- they didn't keep going.
In the 90s, we could have 35, 45 members
Yeah,
show up. And with that impetus, we had more money,
Oh,
we had more labor to grow up on for our conferences.
yeah,
We did some really cool things. I guess I really need, I say my fear is loss of control and loss of our identity. Now,
Okay.
that can
I mean,
be,
those are all
that can be dealt with, then fine, but I understand it. Say it's a lot of headache finding programs and all that kind of stuff. I understand there's another issue with memberships, but, or finding officers rather. But, it just seems to me when we no longer are controlling, our speakers, and there's no activity around that, then what are we actually coming together for? Because if they're gonna be online.
well, but they'll
people
only
just
be
sit at
for
home
members.
and do Zoom.
I would assume it's only for members. The members would only have access.
oh, yeah,
online.
absolutely.
But having a national level person, that makes it different than Joe Blow down the street.
Yeah.
Of course, if Joe Blow's from a different state, then they're a national person, so.
Yeah.
But right now, realistically, we give our Zoom meeting information out to our partners. So the libraries have it. And according to what Dwayne said at one point, people actually wouldn't even have to pay dues. They can attend anytime they want any of our meetings.
Say what now?
We are a public 50.
Mhm. Yeah, we can't lock people out of the
See
meeting.
one or people
Oh,
can attend
okay.
anytime they want. for any
I see what you're saying.
So you don't have any control. Then whether or not they may be watching all the time, but they may never come.
But they can't watch the Zoom. They cannot watch the Zoom recordings or the meetings without having a membership. They can't. Because when we post these videos on our YouTube page, YouTube account, they are unlisted. They only go to people with the links.
And the links aren't given to the library.
I'm not sure we can really do that.
Well,
It's a 531 or, but whatever.
I
Okay,
don't know.
all right, I've already said what my concerns are.
Those are.
My concerns are that any energy flowing into this District 1 unit will be dissipated. But I understand there are other concerns that we need to be looking at. And I do also say we didn't necessarily, we had other plans at one time for some of those monies, including memberships and student memberships and other things like that too, so. But if we spend it all on whatever projects, one of the month, why, well, we can raise more money.
Okay, all right. Any other discussion? Anybody that's on Zoom care to make any comments? Any other comments, suggestions? Okay,
Could we postpone the decision until after we do the other money? Please?
to do what
So
now?
postpone the decision today. I mean, do it today, but later, after we have some of this other money stuff. Like the
Okay.
mythology, because I have no idea what
Okay,
the cost would that be, and that is a factor that I would need
yeah,
to know.
All right.
okay. Is that, everybody agree with that? Okay, all right. Okay, we will move on then. Anthology update. Max and or Barbara, what do you have to tell us?
I go first. We collected authors, 13 different authors decided that they wanted to participate. They sent their materials to me. I kind of put their picture, their bio, and what they sent in to me. Most of the stuff was really well edited and easy to read. And so it's looking good that way. And then I have sent those to Barbara and Ann, so they have the same things I do. And after our meeting today, we're going to be talking about some other issues relative to the logistics of layout and those kinds of things.
Okay, Barbara?
I have read all of the submissions, and I think there is variety of things. I think there'll be something for everyone, and kind of the tentative title for the anthology is All Over the Map or some such. And so I think that the anthology fulfills that. I mean, between the poetry and the prose and all sorts of different genres, I think it's going to look really good. It'll be a beautiful book.
And we have authors from 10 to 90.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, did one of you say we were not gonna meet our goal of getting it done by March?
I don't think there's any reason we have to wait around. I think we can do that.
Okay. Yeah,
Dwayne,
Can you take a late submission? Jim wants to submit something and he wants to become a member. Yes, you're right.
well, there might have to be a little rain kissing, but.
something else.
No, Wayne, we just moved to Topeka, right? Wayne's been kind enough to introduce us to some of, he invited us to see today to this event, but, I didn't know there was a membership. I didn't know a lot of those things, so. Yeah. So.
We have to know the secret word to get in.
But this anthology is really interesting too, so I hate to have shown up a day late for that.
It's gonna be up
I
to
don't have a
you.
big problem with it. Right now, you're still under rubber broken layout.
Nothing's been set in stone yet. Okay.
We're at 2022 membership. Then in December 2023 is it. Okay, but it's a small price for being published, isn't it?
It's.
Yeah,
And
I would love to include.
So if, has Dwayne given you the state website where you can go and?
No. I just said the meeting was today. Forwarded your email, that's what he has, is your email.
All right, if you'll get with me after the meeting, I will give you the information on how to become a member. And by the way, everybody needs to be sure they pay their dues for, next year.
Yeah.
So they need to be paid by December 31st, I think.
Yeah.
Mhm. So.
will come get you.
Yes, yeah, well, honey, cut your head off. So that's, well, we're glad to have you, and, we probably don't do enough soliciting of new members, and Tom, that applies to you too, if you'd like to come, if you don't, love to have you. So, and welcome, I'm glad you both came today, really, it's great to have
You're
you.
welcome to visit all the time.
So, okay, so if, we'll.
Okay, so now jumping ahead, because the things that I want to, what kind of publishing is being looked at for this, or is it to that point yet? And I say that because in the 80s, 70s, I don't remember, District 1 did an anthology of little stories about Christmas. It was like a little chapbook stapled together.
Mhm.
And I'm assuming that that's not the way it's going to be done this time.
No,
Because I read on demand is so easy.
stapled together.
Volunteering.
We haven't really discussed it. I volunteered to format it because Barbara is so busy and, so I'll just format it in InDesign, and then we will have to decide whether we're going to publish both on Amazon or print with Amazon and with Ingram Spark, or how we're gonna do it, so.
As we see what our product looks like, then we'll have some idea whether we think we can push this over the top.
If we want it to be for sale with bookstores like Roundtable, we're gonna have to publish at least one version on Ingram Spark.
So does, side question, can the same layout be used for both
Yes.
KDP and? oh,
Yes,
I didn't-
although if we're gonna do a hardcover, and we've not even discussed a hardcover,
Oh,
the cover needs to be changed for the hardcover.
I would vote that out right now. It's too much.
But if we do a paperback
It is
or
funny.
something like that, where
Hardcovers
layout.
are too expensive.
So we can do a paperback through Ingram Spark so that it would be available for the bookstores. So
Is there an anticipated date?
I think it was March, wasn't it? March, was March the? Sure, April. Was it April?
we want to have this published by April.
By April, okay.
So that gives us some time. It's not maybe as generous as some people would like as far as time wise.
Oh, I was thinking Christmas. I didn't know.
No.
For Christmas, it was about Christmas. And
But how many years ago was
And if we do well on this, maybe we could do some theme ones and hit those out
that? That would
before the holidays.
that would be great.
And
Excellent idea. Yeah,
we wouldn't have to worry about any budget whatsoever.
okay. Any other questions on the anthology? All right. Words in the Wind report, Dwayne is not here to give that. So,
they both shut up last time.
I know, we had the best turnout of Words in the Wind last week that we've, this week or this week? This week.
I'll mention that I'm late because I was watching Words in the Wind online and got off in
Oh.
time. But it was fun to see people I know up there speaking.
Wasn't it great? I mean, the turnout was fabulous.
It was wonderful to have.
So good to have all those people. Yeah, yeah. So I think Words in the Wind is becoming really successful. But I don't know that we need a report per se on it, but
That's a report.
Yeah, because we were all there.
we were all there.
Yeah.
But two things I would want is how many people attended or read, how many people.
12.
and, So 12 read?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
12 read.
And
And it was what, the style poetry prose?
it was poetry.
And
Proves.
Jim's wife attended too. Did she ride as well?
She does, but more technical.
Technical, that's right. I think I remember. her
Family
saying that.
memberships are only 50.
Max is, a real, promoter here. Huckster.
Mhm.
Okay, so any other questions, Max?
No, because I'm gonna hit something there, make sure people next time it's pros
Yeah.
and when it'll be and where it'll be.
And what,
So
Won't be next month, won't be next month.
no, we're not meeting in December because of Christmas. It's the 21st. It would be the 21st. So
December, but we're gonna go back like January,
January.
third Wednesday.
third Wednesday, which is, I don't know when that is.
Okay.
Can't remember.
And it will be poetry again.
No, it will be pros.
Pros, okay.
Yes.
Put that in minutes.
Yeah, and I don't know whether the fact that I'm live streaming the event is helping at all. I don't know. But by live streaming the event, people like Carol, well, we just lost Carol, can watch the thing for a month anyway, until it goes away, but
Yeah, I watched part of it again on Facebook.
yeah.
I think it was fun to, although I don't hear well, I caught some that I hadn't caught
Yeah,
when I was
when
actually
you were
there.
actually there in person. Yeah, that's a
So you
good
just
point.
splice them together then.
Do what?
You just splice them together, then you. I did that with movies.
It fits right though.
I did that with movies. I worked in theater and I took tickets. And so I could see bits of movies, and by the weekend, the end of the week, I had most of the whole movie.
Okay, let's move on to election of officers. The slate of candidates we have is myself as president, Barbara as vice president. Thank you.
Hey, nice to see you, Tom.
Secretary, I need nominations from the floor or we will leave it unfilled. And I need nominations for the state board rep from the floor.
May I ask a question about that state board? Do you
Yes.
meet via Zoom or?
Yes, we do. Except for when we met at the convention in person. Yeah, since the pandemic, they have not met except on Zoom.
And I'm just gonna ask about that also. How long are your meetings?
Our meetings are usually on a Saturday. They will last about an hour and a half to 2 hours.
And then once you get that information, what do you do with it? Do you bring it back to the club and give a
Yes.
presentation on
Well,
what was talked about?
Yes, you give a report to the rest of, and the person that is the district rep is kind of responsible for doing a district report in front of the state board each time.
That means monthly?
About our,
No, we meet quarterly.
about our
at the
local,
max.
about our local district.
Yes.
Right. Right.
Okay. So any other questions? Or any nominations from the floor for any of these positions?
On secretary, what I would tell you is I'm not willing to run, but I would continue as long as I can be here to voluntarily take minutes until someone else is found or elected. But I have two old ladies I'm dealing with, both have terrible health problems, and they're both stubborn, poor patients. So I'm dealing with one in Topeka and one in Kansas City, and well, actually another one in Atchison.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, my life has changed dramatically. But if I can, I will help as long as I can, but I'm not willing to be reelected because I also, if I ever get a chance to, plan to do some traveling.
Right, okay. Well, thank you, Max, for that. Does anybody have any suggestions about people to fill these slots?
We'd have to look at our membership and see who's on there that, because they need to attend a meeting, whether it's in person or by Zoom.
Yeah,
It only happens once a month. And in September and October, we didn't have meetings, so,
Right.
so it only happened 10 times last year.
yeah.
Usually takes me about, I try to do the minutes immediately following, and it takes me about 45 minutes. That's what it is.
Okay.
Um,
I would also like to make an additional slot here for somebody, an additional person to do tech because Max, I never get your minutes on the website. I have so little time that
Tech would be one of those things I think that we could hire somebody for.
well,
But
Curtis Becker said something to me a couple of days ago about, well, at open mic, he said something about there's going to be some changes made on the website to make it more relevant. So all of that may, be moot, but anyway. So what do you guys want to do? Do you want to go ahead and elect this slate or with the vacancies? Or do you want to, I think we have to do this by December.
I think we have to go ahead today,
Okay,
and November is the time for it.
okay,
We may have vacancies, but I think we need to at least put the people in place that are there, that are willing to be there and serve.
okay,
I move as someone.
okay. So you're moving that we accept this slate of officers,
No, that's
including
incomplete.
the vacancies.
Then that we will revisit this. Maybe every meeting.
Yeah, okay, all right, and usually we record our meetings on Zoom, so, we would have that as a backup in terms of having to write minutes if we don't get a secretary right away, so, okay, Dwayne has moved, is there a second to accept the slate of officers?
Some of.
Fred. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Hi,
Well, Riona's back and Carol's back. We lost you for a while.
Sarah's back.
I've been here.
Well, I think Sarah has been here the whole time.
Okay.
I've been here the whole
I thought Marvin came in and unplugged his setup, and I think that did me in, but I hope it didn't do Rayana in.
No, I've been here the whole time.
Okay.
Do what, Riona?
I've been here the whole time.
Oh, I missed your name there for a while. It was like you disappeared. Maybe it was
I did, and I
Carol that
apologize.
disappeared. Okay.
As a side note, I want to make a little comment.
Okay.
Dan does a wonderful job as our president. I think Marvin does just as good a job.
I'm sure she will. I appreciate her stepping up, believe me.
So our officers at this point are Ann,
Barbara Waterman Peters for vice president. Secretary is vacant. State board rep is vacant. Oh, treasurer, I've got to put treasurer on here. Oh, sorry, Riona. And
I just thought
Riona,
maybe I missed you mentioning it or something, because it got kind of noisy there for a bit.
yeah, add treasurer.
Fiona's been here and been here and been here.
and. Okay, so these people, we need to yet vote, do we?
Yes, we do need a vote. All those in favor of accepting this slate of officers as presented.
Joe,
Okay,
Hi.
all righty.
All right, now, your district rep, Barbara, were you interested in that? Is that why you were?
Well, one thing that had deterred any interest was, I don't want to travel
Travel to
around.
meetings.
But if they're held on Zoom, it
They were held on Zoom on a Saturday,
might.
once a quarter, or maybe just 3 times a year. I don't remember. So you would accept that?
Well, I tried.
I think that would be great for a vice president. Okay,
So,
all those in favor of accepting Barbara as the district rep? Raise your right hand. Okay, super, fantastic. Thank you so much. So I've got to get that, I've got to get your name to Tracy. Okay, anything else, officer wise? Okay, we have one more discussion item, and that is next month's winter solstice party. I think we need to have a read around.
Yep.
For sure. What else would you guys like to have done? We're going to have food as always.
Here,
Here, it'll be here, not here. Downstairs, we're gonna take 2 auditorium rooms and have our meeting, have our, have a buffet of some kind. Have
the library.
The library is providing the catering.
One thing we did one year, which was really exciting, and for the read around, we didn't read our own piece.
Oh,
We read somebody else's piece.
oh, that's a good
And then
idea.
people tried to guess who the actual author
Oh,
was.
fun.
It was, amazing. And most of the time, everybody was all wrong.
Oh, funny. Good idea.
But you have to bring your piece without your name on it,
Okay,
because sometimes things just.
and then
come
you
up.
just kind of,
No, you don't get a chance to read it ahead of time. So you
That may be hard remotely.
No, you just bring it at the meeting, because you don't know who's gonna be there.
Fun,
that might be.
just check a little better.
All right.
Okay, so we'll need people to bring their reading material,
And usually
Hi.
just one page, so
one
that it's
page,
without your name.
without your name on it. Okay, excellent.
And we were going to use this also as a marketing tool to invite people we want to join,
Okay,
people we think should join, as well as friends. And,
Called entrapment.
Have people who have been to the open mics and so forth, sharing prose and or poetry, then they're maybe gonna be familiar with whatever is being read, and don't know who it is.
Well, I
I see
should
what
bring
you're-
something new.
I'll have to bring something new.
Well, that's all right. That's all, it doesn't, nobody remembers that much anyway. I don't remember.
Well, and they're not everybody.
yeah, something like people,
Just a concern, that could be,
poet laureates, partners for sure. And anybody else, who else in town do we want? We want all those different writing groups, women pen writers and the library journaling group and that kind of stuff.
Well, I'm in Penn Women, but I'm already a member.
I know, but are there other pen men?
Yes, there are actually Naomi Cashman, although some of the people in Penn Women are in as artist members. I'm an artist in letters, art in letters, but I
I don't
see
know
you
how
then.
many people we were gonna limit to, or, do we- but I would think this is a good marketing tool for us this time of year. We're gonna have entertainment. I think it'd be cool if we could have some singers of some sort from somewhere. There is that one,
That one
it's a
group,
choir that,
who are they?
homeschool.
Who are those women?
There's that group that's a homeschooled group of a choir.
You're being serious. Age group.
We might be able to get somebody from speak a barbershop quartet, something like that.
Capital City Quartet.
Yeah.
Or Capital City Chorus.
Or also the barbershop.
Well, we have to feed them too, but they're not gonna become members, so.
No, I mean, you did have to feed us last year, the women's group. So I don't know. It's up to you guys. But it's getting awfully late to ask people, so.
We'd just have to send something to their organization, right, them, I suppose, at this point. Unless there's some very specific people we want to go after for membership. I mean, surely we want to invite our poor laureate and
Well, I think we need to invite Tracy.
Tracy.
I don't know what.
But she could give an
detail
update, I mean, like she did
Yeah,
last time.
yeah. Okay. In terms of entertainment, besides whatever music we have, do you want to play any games or do fun things like that? Or do you think the read around is going to be enough entertainment
The read
or?
around is very entertaining.
Yeah,
Especially if we wind up with 8 or 10 pieces to be read. that
Yeah.
we may not be able to read all
Okay, well, I think we should.
We
read all of them.
We should.
of them. Well,
We've done enough to,
Well, I won't worry about entertainment. I was gonna bring the game that we didn't get to play last year called Poetry for Neanderthals, but
how long will that take?
I don't know. I've never-
Fred is an excellent musician.
And we say 40 minutes on our read around.
That's
and
plenty.
10 minutes for Tracy
that's plenty. And eating,
And
and eating.
Yeah.
that's plenty.
And we have music.
Okay. Well, the event is that third Saturday. And I think we're gonna start it at 11:30 like we did last year.
7.
Is that okay?
11:30 a.m.
Yeah,
Third Saturday, December.
so put that on your calendars and be there or be square.
Fred is an excellent musician, hint, hint.
Do what?
Fred is an excellent musician, hint, hint.
We can't hear you, Carol.
Oh.
It's muffled.
She said Fred is an excellent.
Oh, yes,
musician.
Fred is
Oh,
a good
okay.
musician too, so, but, you know, do we want to work all our members? I don't know. That's a lot of stuff for him to bring from.
Oh, it isn't bad. I'm pretty used to it.
Well, that's another possibility then.
I really appreciate the opportunity, if I got the opportunity, I'd love to.
Okay,
If I can-
would you play for us while we eat?
Oh, that's a good time.
I think it
Sure.
would be good.
That would be a good time to.
Why don't we do that? Have Fred come and play the dulcimer or
Play you-
the
Oh, the door.
balalaika or whatever. Yes, you too. You too.
Sure.
Well, we have our entertainment.
Part of it.
Well, I mean, that's enough.
And
Okay, any other discussion or suggestions about the winter solstice party? Okay, not, I would entertain a motion, what,
I would like to add another one. I
Okay.
think we should talk a little bit about money, what else we've got, besides we agreed to vote on that other
Yeah.
issue today. Whether we do.
Having a anthology meeting.
oh, you need to have an anthology meeting.
No, I mean,
We're gonna come back to
we
the
table
$500.
the vote.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, so you want to vote then at the party?
No,
We were gonna vote today.
Okay,
But I'm first want to talk about, they're asking for a commitment from a certain amount of money or whatever.
mhm,
It's up to us to decide that, but I wanted to get out some ideas out there about how we intended to maybe spend some of our other money.
oh, okay.
Because I think if you don't have a plan, then whenever something comes up, oh, that's only 500, or that's only 300, or 1,500, before long, you don't have a budget left.
Yeah,
So I know we're gonna do the anthology. What that will actually cost us, I don't know.
I think we can get it done for under 500.
Okay, versus whatever we might make on it. All right, I think that we had, if we're successful with this, and want to do something like a Christmas or a Halloween or some other kind of a story for District 1 people, whereby we either give the club the money or allow the authors to make the money. Doesn't matter to me at this point, but that would be another thing if we're gonna do something else, like another writing opportunity. At one time, we talked about sponsoring memberships for people who we would like to have join our club. They may not know us very well, and they may not be interested in spending the $35. But there are some people in our community, for example, I think if we could invite some of the other pen women, I think if we could invite some of the other people we know are writing and publishing in our community, that it would be fair to say, let's do 10 of them a year. You know, invite 10 new people a year, and some of them might even decide to join after that, and it was certainly going to be aware and welcome and receiving our newsletter which by the way is always beautiful. I
Oh,
love it.
God, yes.
And they would be seeing our Facebook page and that kind of stuff. So there are other tags here for other kinds of things we want to do. At some point, we talked, I don't know what the ongoing mic is gonna cost us, but I think there's expenses with the mic, maybe equipment and that kind of stuff as we roll. Okay, and then.
As
the
long
other
as I
thing-
use my iPad and my tripod, there's no expenses.
And there was another one that just flew through my mind, another expense that we were.
Well, we've got a convention coming up in I don't know how many years that we need to. We'll make money for that.
Yeah.
Our convention, we probably ought to always
3 years?
save some money for that, at least to raise money with.
Mhm.
We talked about maybe we want to hire a tech person to make sure that some of the tech stuff that you guys are having to do right now is shared by somebody else. So, you know, the first tech person, even if you're putting aside $75 a month or whatever to get somebody to pick up that and put it together, or what, you know, I don't know how much that'll cost. Maybe I'm underballing it, I don't know, lowballing it. Oh, there was another cost there I thought about. Or we mentioned the mic.
You were
Marketing.
talking about, inviting people, sponsorships or something. Would those be guest memberships for 1 year? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. A guest membership.
And we
per year.
would pay their membership.
We would pay their membership. Also, I don't know if there's any way we want to do stuff here in this group, for this group.
Well, there would be a cost if we were to have a table at the Kansas Authors Fair, at Kansas Book Festival,
Mhm.
but nobody signed up to work at that.
Yeah.
So,
I was playing that.
So until there's more interest, why that one probably doesn't need to go on here.
yeah.
I would have, except I had my own booth.
Yeah, I know this, you know.
Okay, well, there's at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other things, and if we decide to go ahead and have anthologies again,
Well, I tell you, you don't need to be doing more than one anthology a year. I mean,
And we can see what it costs.
we
a
might,
lot of book groups do, a lot of author groups do an annual anthology. So if you guys want to build that into the structure, into the list of events, that's understandable.
okay, we'll be probably, what we're having here, we're probably talking about less than $4,000. So we have 8,000, so.
Okay.
It's just, but how much would we want to keep aside?
For
Always
the
the main thing
convention.
for our convention, aren't we gonna want at least $3,500 starting or something?
Oh, Riona, can you remember how much we had in the kitty before last year's convention to begin
It
with?
was about 2,800, I think.
2,800, okay.
We're in good shape.
And I mean, you know, before we knew we were gonna be doing it on Zoom again, we had started to call on advertisers and get sponsorships. So, you know, depending on what the economy does,
Yeah.
a lot of that can be underwritten.
Okay. So if we put a tag and say we're gonna keep how much money on hand, always earmark for the convention.
I'd say $2,500
Think that's plenty?
or 3,000, I don't know,
How about 3,000?
3,000.
Okay, so always 3,000 on hand for convention. That means that we'll have to raise. Prices will go up in the next 2 to 3 years. We're probably talking about raising $14,000. Because this year we had it figured out and it was gonna cost us close to $19,000.
For what?
when we sat down with the budget,
Convention?
19,000, where is that coming from?
it was about $19,000. We had so much for meals and so much for motel, so
No,
much
more like
for
9,000.
advertising.
9,000?
No,
Brianna, what did the convention cost us in 2019 or 20, whenever the other one was?
Um,
I mean, I know it's gone up considerably, but
I think it was last year.
I mean, Ruth had that budget drawn up.
Where is?
it was 17,000 one way and 19,000 other, I forget.
I didn't remember.
And we thought maybe we
I
could pull off about 11,500 or 11,700, something like that.
Brianna was-
okay, in 2015, our expenses were $9,600.
9,600, okay, so you may not be that far off.
Motel's gone up.
Yeah,
Meals
but
are
you get
double.
reimbursed for most of that. Most of the costs are reimbursed.
Speaker costs are up.
Anyway, we don't have to fork over $9,000 of our own treasury money. That's what I'm
All right.
saying.
No, we just need to have seed money for getting the stuff started, and then once we start collecting registrations, that's where the rest of the money comes from.
Yeah. Okay,
So if we say 3,000 approximately, we will earmark for.
for the next convention that we
next
host,
convention.
unless that all goes out the window with restructuring statewide, but I don't think it will. Okay, so you have,
We send $500.
what did you say?
I
Wayne?
move that we send $500
Okay, we have
for
a,
this year to try and see.
we have a motion on the floor for,
Delay the meeting.
do what now?
Keep going.
We have a motion on the floor. Do you want to withdraw it?
No.
Okay, the motion is to fund speakers on a statewide basis for $500. Is there a second
For 2023.
for 2023?
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion before we vote? All those in favor, and I'm sorry, I need to ask you guys how you vote too. So all those in favor, raise your hand. Rhonda? Carol?
I,
Okay. All right, it looks like the motion carries. Okay. All right, anything else for the good of the group? I would invite anyone who doesn't have anything to do this afternoon, evening. Our group is singing at Nodo at 5 o'clock. It's supposed to be at Red Bud Park, but I hope they move it inside. So do I hear a motion for adjournment? Okay,
Well, surely they'll move you inside to the.
I hope so. I hope so. You're so cold. No, we wouldn't be able to sing. We're just feeling the broke.
Bravado would really come back.
You know, that's good, but Dr. Group tries to eliminate vibrato. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Riona. Thanks, Carol. Good to see you guys. What do you got there, girl?
This is 2 volumes that I've been working on for a guy in Iola, Kansas. I have a 3-volume set about Frederick Funston,
Oh,
heard of him?
yes.
famous
Frederick
Kansas.
Funston.
Anyway, it's nonfiction and it's been a pain in the butt.
I bet that's hard. I bet that's
Lot of
hard.
footnotes.
She's
Thank
been,
you, folks. Good to see you
formatting.
all.
good to see you. I hope you can be in person at the winter party.
Bye, Fred.
Food and all that's worth thinking of.
I think so. I'll try to get out information as soon as possible. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Thanks for coming. Thanks, Riona.
bye.
Oh.